What's up guys, and welcome to another video here on Abster TCG. So today we are doing a rapid teach guide, I call it. So it's a small guide on every matchup with some bullet points. And also, this is my takes and from my testing, and some of these opinions may change in the future. And also, every game we teach is not black and white. This guide is black and white and tells you in general how to do things, but every game may differ from what says here. So in some cases you have to go outside of this, but I would say in general this is how I approach every matchup at the beginning, and then depending on how the game goes you have to adapt. And also use this guide to your testing, because you also have to test a lot to learn these things, because Teach is such a nuanced deck that you need to know every matchup in the fullest. But I think in general this can be a guideline to improve your play. So first off we have Doflamingo. Most people prefer to go first into Dofi, I've seen in OP10. There's also arguments to go second. I think both are fine. Start to leader from turn 2 and up to block them from their own place. But you should also adapt. In every matchup there's like in general how you want to pitch, but then you also have to adapt depending on the game state if you can pitch or not for the turn. But in general from turn 2 and up you want to pitch, because Luffy can do a lot of on plays and get a lot of value on it. There's also a trick you can do if you go second and they start with a Perona, you can skip to do leader to be a little bit greedy, because they will probably not stack Jimbe with that Perona because they think you will leader. They will maybe do a Jimbe or a Boa, or like if they miss they maybe get like a Croc or a Weevil. Mihawk. So if you pitch and they just get a Mihawk, then you lost one card. So from there you can actually mind game them. But there's also a like if they know that you will do that, like do these mind games, then maybe it's better just do it to be safe, and then maybe they've stacked a Jimbe instead of the Weevil. So always from turn 2 and up if you not want to do the mind game things, but only do that if you feel comfortable with it. That didn't work with testing. In general, I'd mulligan for Doku, Kusan, Van Ager and Lib, because these are the cards that you use to fight the board. Birdies can also come up if you can stick it and just play around with it as a beat stick, and also play around Tiger. But I would say in general these are the best cards in this matchup, and also Teach are good in late game. The other removal spells are also good, but in general Doku, Kusan, Van Ager is like how you get value in the matchup. And threats, Doffy goes tempo, goes face. I think everyone knows how to lose against Doffy playing Teach, especially in 09. In OP10 we get a lot more of tools to answer what they do. But yeah, you don't want to die, you don't want it to tempo. Another threat I forgot to put in there is also Raging Tiger. I think that's probably the best card for them in this matchup. So always play around Raging Tiger if you can. If you can't play around Raging Tiger, then you have to commit into it, and yeah, from there maybe you win, maybe you lose. I mean, they play 2 Tigers, so they have to have it then. But also if you get Tiger, in some cases you can win. You can sometimes play into Tiger, and if they Tiger they lose too much tempo or too low resources. So as I said, it's not black and white, every game is different, so you have to play around and adapt from the games. And the win con is to out resource and survive. I would say that that's the like biggest thing. And then once you hit late game, they're going to start to chip away like 1 or 2 damage each turn until you have like 3 big swings and they have like 2 cards in hand and maybe 2 life, and you can swing for game. In some games also the Doffy player takes more life early, and then from there it's easier to close out the game. But the win con, out restores and survive and play around these threat cards, I would say in general is how to play this matchup. But again, it's not black and white, every game may differ. So yeah, let's get to the next one. So here we have Usopp. I think this deck may be more prevalent here in the West, now that like we get 3 months of Japan having the deck, and then we get to keep the theory going for it. And like, as you know, like every format evolves. Like old Yu-Gi-Oh formats are completely different to they were back then, because the formats evolve. So it would not surprise me if Usopp gets even more and more innovation. So in general, go second into Usopp, that's the best thing, because you get the extra draw and you get to play even curve, and Teach likes to play even curve. Start leader from 7th on and up to play around the Rebecca card, and up until Kyros does not become a problem. This rarely happens. I usually most time pitch into Usopp, but if you're in a state where Kyros don't matter, you don't need to pitch, or like if you need a card to survive or something, it's better to keep leader. Mulligan, I think the most important thing is to answer Cavendish, because the biggest threat in this deck is him running away the games with Cavendish, because that card can generate so much value, it pokes you for life or can swing into your things. Try to have an answer to Cavendish, like Pistol Stronger, because Black Hole or Liberation can clear like 2 things if they, for example, have a Frankie and a Cavendish or something, or double Cavendish even. Also, like the threats Cavendish, and if they build board, it's a little bit like Doffy. You kind of lose the same way. If they get to build the board and out-resource you, then you are going to lose this matchup. And now I've seen recently that they have started to play Raging Tiger, so keep in mind to try to play around that card as much as possible. So maybe play around with 1 Burgess if you can, and until you hit late game, where you maybe can extend more. And if they do Tiger, they lose a lot of tempo, and then you can keep going. But generally, the win con is to win board and keep Usopp down, play around Tiger, and close game with Teach. Also keep in mind, like, okay, what turns Usopp can draw and not. For example, if he has 6 cards in hand, it's better to use like a pistol before swinging 5 at life, because they will probably counter than draw a card when you pistol. So keep their hand size in mind and play around the lead ability, and always teach in the beginning of the turn to play around leader so they don't get to draw. I would say in general this is Usopp, but again, not black and white. Every game may differ, but this is like in general kind of how I feel about this matchup. Now the headset is charging out here again. And now we have Shanks. So I think that Shanks is a fake deck. I don't think this deck is good at all. As we've seen in results lately, yeah, it may get the top here and there and maybe like win some tournament, but I don't think it converts as well as people think it does. Preferably into Shanks, you want to go second, and leader, you want to do it on 7 on turn, 8 on turn, and 9 on turn is the turns you really want to do it. And then from 10 on and up, you don't need to do it. You don't need to do it before that. Do it if you want to play around Dragon or Rayleigh, or if you need to do it. In other cases, you don't really need to pitch, because like if you pitch and they go 10 cost Shanks, it's worse if they go like a natural dragon in a lot of cases with their own play. So always think of the game state. But I would say like this is when you pitch. So in most games into Shanks, I may be even pitching like 1 time, or sometimes I even pitch 0. For example, if you don't need to play around Abe and Beckman, or maybe like 1 turn I always pitch because play around dragon, because they used to go aggressive against you. But if they can't Beckman anything on you, then you don't really need to pitch. If they have a Hongo, for example, then you need to pitch because they can decrease in the Beckman. But in general, that's how we pitch. Mulligan, I would say stage is the most important card, just to try to find all your things. Burgess is good, Kusen is good, of course. These things to answer board is good, depending on Shanks version you play. And there is also a lot of people that has hopped on the aggro Shanks. I think aggro Shanks is better into you, but I think that deck loses to a lot of other things that Shanks naturally won against before. So the threats are if they go aggro and just swing you down. I think there's a lot of clips on the stream when I play against aggro Shanks and they just rush and you can't really do anything. And like in the regular like red hair Shanks pirate deck, hybrid deck, getting behind in board is the way you lose, I would say. And the win con is, I would say, in general, Burgess army. In some cases, the double Van Auger Doc Q may come up to KO things and just answer board. And then in late game, you want to close with Teach, like stunning big Shanks and such on. And also, not black and white, do your own testing, but this is general tips. Okay, so subscribe and like, of course, for this little cute platypus here. And also, if you want to support the channel and what I do, you can for free use the TCG Player affiliate link down below. You just have to click it if you're going to buy anything for TCG Player, and I get a small commission, and it's of course free for you. So for example, if you're gonna buy these beautiful Kusans now when OP10 comes out, use my TCG Player affiliate code. It's greatly appreciated. And I also right now do coaching for Blackbeard. I got a lot of messages for it, and I've done some coaching for some people, and I think it's gone really well. And with coaching, coaching is not a miracle pill. So what a coach can do and what I can do for you is to help you with the guidance on the direction, like try to elevate you to the next level by guiding you. But in the end, you still have to do the hard work. But together with like guidance, you can come far. So yeah, if you're interested, you can just shoot a DM to me on Discord or Twitter. But enough said with the plug yapping. Let's keep the guide going. So we have Bonney here. In general, into Bonney, I like to go second because you get to see another card. You block them from the curve going second. But they also have a height curve going first. But I think going second is better because you see additional cards and you get to play the even curve. Leader, like only if you need to play around the Hody in the mid game, and when they hit 10 and 9 down, if you need to play around Doflamingo or Shanks, you want to do it. Most when they are 10 down, you want to do it because the Doflamingo can lose you the game. I'm just gonna do hydration pause fast. Drink water, guys. It's important. So mulligan, I often try to mulligan for stage, of course. Into all of these slower matchup, this will be the trend. You always want to find stage, because stage is essentially every card in your deck. For example, we say if you drop stage turn 1 or turn 2, at turn like 4, you have probably looked at like 20 cards of your deck or even more, and from there like you should have seen like a lot of the answers you are seeking for the matchup. And once you hit late game and start to get even more late game, then you have probably cycled through your deck. Like we'll see the cards you have bot decked from before. So a lot of the slower matchups you want to have stage, and I also like to get the answer to a 5-drop. For example, in OP10, Smoker is a really big threat because it has Banish, it's huge statted, and it makes it so that Bonney can for example next turn play a Hody and arrest it on to get leader up and go really aggressive on you. So answer to 5-drop, and then like stronger black hole, pistol, auger, lib, I guess, but that's hard to do. But try to have an answer to a 5-drop. The threats are board building. If Bonney can build a board and swing on you, that's obviously a threat. Like all of these decks teach one to neutralize the board and like slow and steady win. And also if they get to stick the 5-drops, as I said, Smoker has Banish, really annoying, and then play into Hody. They swing into you and then you will just lose resource game because you have hard time clearing 2 bodies. Also, if they go Tashigi, it may be worth to remove it early. The 3-4 Tashigi that protects, because if they have it, then you can't really remove the green cards. So there's some arguments to get rid of them. Also, so the win con, answer 5-drops. I mean, I said 5-drops, Swedish. Drop Burgess, close with Teach, and play around Bonney leader skill. So in some cases, you can drop a Burgess on 4 or 5. But usually, like, it all depends. If they have leader, dropping Burgess, and if it's like a 5k body, then it's really hard because you can't really swing with leader because they will just tap Burgess. So, but if you like get to age and stage and get to cycle a lot of cards and Burgess is like a 7 or 8k, then you can like drop Burgesses more early because it's hard for Bonney to play something and then swing into the Burgess. And also with OP10, swinging with Burgess earlier is a little bit easier to do because you have 4 Kusan 2 to revive the Burgesses. So in general, you can play a little bit more risky with them, but don't overdo it because Burgess is still a crazy card once you get to late game and gets a lot of value. And also, again, not black and white, do your own testing, these general tips. Then we have BY Luffy. I think this matchup, it all depends on the skill of the BY player and how experienced they are in the matchup. All these games, like every game I play against BY and every game I look against BY, it looks completely different because the BY player will like, they take a lot of different cards like every tournament, they play different, they starve, they swing, so you have to adapt in the game. But in general, go second because you block them from their good curve, you get the good curve, and also you have to trash with leader later. So mulligan for Stage and Burgess. I think that Stage and Burgess is the way you win. 10 cost each is okay, but like they can just Raigwit and go face. So we'll just build arm with Burgess. Don't like overdo it. Answer the 5-drop Luffy. The punch Luffy is also important. As I said, answer 5-drops are really important in this deck. Because they can become a threat being aggressive. So I would say in general that's like how you mulligan. And that's how I mulligan. Threats is of course falling behind the board and losing to them be aggressive on you, or in some cases they starve you and out-resource you. So depending how they do, you have to adapt the game plan. So also here, do a lot of testing against the deck, talk with people, and I got like a lot of videos where I play against these two if you want to check footage from games. And also they play a new tech called Brahams, I think. It's 3 cost 3-4 I think from Sky Island. they can bot deck a stage that costs 1 or less. They can bot deck your Hachi, and then they can rest a character with, I think it's 4 cost or less, so they can just swing into your Burgess. You have to keep that in mind. So if people start to play Braham, it may be worth to drop the Burgesses more late game when they are big, so Braham does not get value. And the win con is Burgess Army, and Teach is good but not super important, and also answer their 5-drop. I think it's really hard to explain how to close the game. Watch videos of experienced Teach players against BY, and then you can see how, in general, how you close the game against BY. So let's get to the next one. A red and green smoker. I have just not tested this super much because like it recently came to the scene with OP10, and I had to play against it a lot more. But I think I kind of got a grasp. I at least know how I win and how I lose, I feel like. And the matchup is a little bit worse than I thought because they can have this aggressive element, which is a little bit annoying. But in general, I think I want to go second. There are some arguments, I see some people talk about going first, so I think there's a case for both. But now I'm going to talk about like the general game plan. Leader, yeah, I only lead into this deck if I need to play around Hody, because I think that's the like only on play that's really scary. If you have seen Carrot, then you maybe can play around it if it's important to get to stand your Burgesses, but in general you just leader for Hody. I think like Hody is like the only on play that most lists play that are annoying, but it all will adapt depending on how the list looks when the set comes out. Mulligan, stage of course. I like stage. Burgess, really good, an answer to the 5-cost smoker. The 5-cost smoker is crazy in this deck. It stands like, together with leader, they can stand 3 Don and then play something out with the smoker, or you just like get to swing bigger with more bodies. So I would say the answer to the smoker, of course. And the threats are, I would say the biggest threat is Smoker Tashigi. If they get to stick Smoker Tashigi together and you don't really have like answer to the Tashigi and then you can kill the Smoker, then I think the matchup swings to the Smoker player. But also that's a 2-card combo and they only play 4 searchers, so them getting it I think is less likely than you having an answer to it, because we search our whole deck. But I think Smoker Tashigi is like really scary because you can't leave it, you can't pistol the Smoker, then you can't, like, you have to clear the Tashigi and then you clear the Smoker. So I think that is annoying, and also if they get to be aggressive on you, like I said here, aggression, of course, and also falling behind on board. The win con, I think it's to answer threats and just win with Burgess Teach. Burgess Teach is a win con in a lot of these matchups that are more standard and not the one when you really take the control deck plays. So I would say in general this is how I feel about this matchup. I'm not super convinced and satisfied yet how to beat it, but I'm getting closer and closer to it, and I think I have some footage against it when I lose and when I win too. But I think in general this should be a great matchup once we test a lot more, of course. And also, if you have any different opinion to me and anything, you can comment down below. Like, I think having open discussions are good, and this is like my opinions, and my opinions are subject to change. I think maybe some opinions will change, I don't know. So comment down below what you think, and we can discuss some maybe. So now we have Enel. I think a lot of people struggle against this matchup. I heard people say it like, oh, I get started on things, but I think this matchup is kinda easy. You generally want to go second, and you want to do leader on 8 on turn and up to play around Katakuri, Yamato, and Ace. If you don't have a board and don't need to play around Katakuri, there are some arguments maybe not to do it on 8, but in general I would always do it on 8 on and up. Mulligan for stage. I think stage is the most important card, and you want to search for Burgess and Teach. That's like the only cards you want in this matchup. The threat, maybe if he goes aggro, he can put out a lot of bodies and swing into you, or he can go the other mode to out-resource you and starve you. It all depends, you have to adapt how the Enel player plays. But your win con is just to build a Burgess army, put them to 1 life, just like swing with leader, put them to 1. Because this is before EB, of course. During EB, maybe you want to put him on 2 instead to play around the heal of the big Enel. But then, yeah, get them to 0 with Teach and the Burgesses to negate lead ability, or you maybe naturally are able to put them to 0 with big Burgesses. And once they get to 0, they can't heal anymore because you're going to block them from on place. So from there, the games often become easy, especially if they starve you. Then there's like no way of them of winning, I think, if they can't like build an army of the Shirahoshis. But I would say in general, this is how we play into Enel. Let's get to next game. Roblucci, lol. So we have Smoker. I think Smoker is a lot harder than Roblucci. This is obviously also a meme. I think I did a video on Roblucci, but in general, you want to go second, you want to build up Burgesses, you want to answer the threats and go for game. This matchup is super easy if you just play it like 10 games. And then we have Smoker. Smoker is a little bit harder. I think more people may struggle against it, so always want to go second against Smoker. And leader ability. You want to do leader ability if you have to play around Tashigi in early mid game, and on 8 on and up, of course, to not let them play Moria. You want to mulligan for stage and board fighting cards and Burgess. I forgot to put it there, but yeah, Burgess should also always be implied like, okay, it's one of the main win cons. So the problem is, for example, if you on 4 drop a Burgess and they drop a Kusa next turn, or if you drop Burgess on 4, they will go to 5 next turn. You have to pitch with leader to play around Tashigi. And if you go first and they have a Kusan on board, you can't really drop Burgess and then pitch with leader, because they can just swing with Kusan and then play Tashigi and pop it. So you have to play around Tashigi. So what I often do is in early game, I just look to like clear the board, play around with the other cards. Once I get to like 8 don, 9 don, maybe you can like Burgess, or Kusan, Burgess, Kusan up with Burgess, and then pitch. Because if you start to drop Burgesses earlier, then you have to start the pitching earlier to play around Tashigi. But if you do it later, then you don't have. Then you keep the cards in hand. And also, like, if they have to waste their 9 on turn to play like Ice Age and a Tashigi, then like they have 4 on left to do things, and that's they can't do that much with it. So I would say drop the Burgesses later, and like you just stick a Kusan if you have an empty board, and they can't really answer the Kusan, and then just leave it there until you're going to crack for like 1 Burgess from game, maybe play 2 and then do leader and then teach after that. So the threats are also Kaido, of course. Kaido is an annoying card because it trashes, so it can get Burgess and it lets you discard a card. The games I lost to the Smoker also, they go aggressive on if they get to build a board and be aggressive. So I would say in general, like that's the threats. And the win con, of course, Burgess. Once you get to late game, the card is huge. They can't get rid of it if they don't have Tashigi, Ice Age, or Kaido, or a Kusan on board. So I don't think you want to drop Burgess in a lot of cases when they have Kusan on board. But yeah, and Teach can be good too. Of course, Teach is really good in late game to close out games. But Smoker is a deck that can pop the Teaches if you're low on cards. Let's talk a little bit about the mirror. I think also this especially is not a black and white thing. You need to playtest this a lot and like try to understand how it works. But in general, I like to go second in the mirror, and of course you never do leader skill. The only time you do leader skill if you want some specific card into trash, or if you want to pump Burgess by trashing something for your swing. That's like the only time you do leader in this matchup. And the threats is like if you lose board. So in OP09, I think the matchup became a lot more of these like drop Burgess, drop Burgess, drop Burgess. But I think in OP10, like, yeah, you build up Burgesses and then finally get to teach. But I think in OP10, a lot of the games I've played rarely go to like this you see 4 teach on board things. Because you're just going to fight board, fight board, fight board. And once someone plays the first teach, they are probably in a worse position, or if they're not already turbo winning the game. But if they drop the teach, you are probably ahead in board because you have used your turn. So you're just going to swing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And the one who can fight for the board best and stick the most things and gain the most value is the one who's going to win. So I would say that Augur is actually really underrated in the mirror as a tempo card. Because, for example, if you go first and you decide to drop a Burgess on 4, if they have not dropped a Burgess, then they can just black hole it. But if you decide to drop Augur instead, or maybe on your 6th on turn, or like you try to play around with Augurs, then they can't take it out with black hole. And if they have stage, they will probably search for the black hole, so they maybe have 2 in hand. If you know they have 2 in hand, there's like, yeah, in some cases they're good to drop Burgess, but like dropping these Augurs are really hard to get rid of for the opponent. And also they have to pistol or they have to go stronger black hole. And in both the cases, they lose at least 1 card in their hand, and you are going to draw a card. So then you're up 1 card. And also if they use 4 Don to take out your Augur, they are also losing 4 Don for tempo. So then you can just keep the tempo swinging. And also, you don't really want to swing with Burgess early, or like you want to do it now. Like if it's a 6 or 7, I usually start to swing with them now just to go aggro on the opponent to put on the pressure. But Augur is also really good with that because it can also put a lot of pressure, and your opponent like, do I really want to swing into the Augur, waste on for that? So Augur Kusan is like really good, and then in late game I think I start to drop the Burgesses. If I don't go second and like have 2 Burgess and just drop a Burgess into another Burgess and try to overwhelm the opponent. But I think that Augur is a really underrated card in this mirror for like the board fighting and for the as a main win con, I would say. I won a lot of games where I just went for Augurs and not Burgesses in the mirror. But also, this is just my opinions. Do your own testing, but I think you will be surprised how good Augur is in the mirror. And then we have the Purple Luffy. In general, into Purple Luffy, I like to go first. You can also go second, especially in OP10, because the new edition of Liberation. But Purple Luffy, when they go first, I think they are probably slightly favored into a lot of things, but when they go second, they are like unfavored into almost everything. So you want to do leader when they are on 7 on up to play around Luffy Taro. In some cases, you can skip to make them commit into a lib. For example, if they have a Soryu on board, if they dropped it and they go up to 7th on next turn, and you can do leader to play around Luffy Taro, you can skip it, because if they go Luffy Taro into Sangoro, you can just go lib and clear these 2 bodies. So they go -1 don, so they later get to 10, and also you get to clear both of them for 1 card. So you are also winning the value game and keeping down aggression. And maybe if you already have a Birdies on board, and then the Birdies are going to get bigger, and you can like start to swing with it too. So, but usually as a guideline, discard when they are on 7 don and up. For the Mulligan, I like to answer for the 5-drop Sangoro. Sangoro is crazy if you get to stick and win. That's the theme. 5-drops are scary for this deck. Stage is good, and like in general look for good cards. I also play this matchup a lot, but I think in general this matchup becomes a lot easier in OP10. The threats, of course, are Luffy running away with the board. So you really want to like fight for board, and then once you get to late game, then you have like big Burgesses, a Teach, and like from there you want to beat down and like do valuable swings and trades. Augur Doku can come up to KO Soros. If you get double Augur, you can for example KO Taro, you can KO Sangoro. So doubles. So you have to look for the lines once you play. Yeah, so for the closing statements, I have this cool monkey here, like for him, I hope, at least. This is in general the guide. Maybe as I said, I missed some decks that you wanted to see here, but I get a lot of questions. How do you play into this X matchup? And my answer will probably be, you have probably played against this deck more than me. So I usually play a lot on Sim right now, on rated and things, and then you don't go up on that much rogue. I don't have that much experience to a lot of this fringe deck. But what I would recommend you to do is categorize what kind of deck is this, and then from there you can approach it the way, okay, this deck is similar to Doffy, okay, then you kind of play it like you play against Doffy. For example, Bellobetti, you kind of play it similar to Doffy. Like, okay, this deck is closer to Enel, okay, then you play it like you play into the Enel. So you have to like categorize them and play from it. And also, as I said, do your own testing. This is just my opinions. I may be wrong on some things. I hope I'm right on a lot of these, and this is just how I feel and what has given me success. But in general, use this as a guideline for your own testing. And thanks a lot for watching, and see you in the next video.